Before I jump onto the training program here. So I'm Arvind Pachnuri and I'm having around 2 years of experience in IT industry, and I started my career with Sun Microsystems. So I started my career as a developer, Java developer, and then I moved to white box tester, and then I moved to automation, and I have experience in Silk, RFT, and Selenium, and I have patent filed in Selenium as well, especially not on Selenium but automation as well. And coming to Selenium, I have around 8 years of experience and very in-depth experience in Selenium, and I have around 4 projects implementation, a full-fledged 4 projects implementation in Selenium. So that is my introduction, and I just want to know about yourself, and I just want to see where you stand up and where I have to start with. So I'll start with Shailaja. So if you can just tell about yourself, what is your background, what is your education background, and where you're coming from?
Hi, I have a master's in IT, information technology, but my concentration is on web designing. But
Okay.
I've taken a training in QA, quality assurance and quality QTP and QC. The Selenium is new for me. I have no idea on Selenium, so
Okay.
I have to learn more on this.
Yeah, good to know that. Thank you. What about Vivek?
Hi, Arvind. My name is Vivek, and I have 12 years of IT experience covering SAP, integration, etc. And in my current project, I have to take care of Star web performance management tool. That is the reason why I am here. I do have a lot of IT experience, but I don't have any testing experience. I would like the Star web performance management. I don't want.
Your voice is breaking, Vivek. I was not able to hear the last word.
Okay, basically, I would like to get trained only on the Star web performance management tool. I don't want anything else in Selenium.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I see Shashi joined this call. So, Shashi, can you tell about yourself, please? Hello.
Hello. I am Shashi.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Can you tell about yourself, please? Like where you're from and what is the education background and what?
I did electronics and communication engineering in India. So then I worked as a lecturer in engineering college for 5 years. Then here in US I don't have any work experience.
Okay.
But I have Informatica background and then Oracle. I know Oracle database. So I did a certification in Informatica and Oracle. I did
around 2 years of experience in IT industry, and I started my career with Sun Microsystems, and then I work with Oracle Corporation, and presently I'm in IBM Software Labs. I started my career as a Java developer, and slowly I move on to unit testing, and then API automation, REST API automation, and also moved to web services testing, and then presently I'm in UI automation as well as REST API automation. I have around 6 to 8 years experience in Selenium automation, and around full project implementation using Selenium UI automation, and I have around 4 framework designed for this particular projects. And also, as I work as a technical architect in current company, I design a typical frameworks based on that use case I get from the project. So, and I have around 2 years of on-site experience, and also I basically visit to China, US, maybe once or twice in a year to basically to support the customer, because I work also in L3 support. So that is about myself, and as you people are given the introduction, let me start because I just want to see, like, as I have heard you're basically where you're coming from, and I see people, some people, I see Shailaja doesn't have any idea on Selenium, and she doesn't have anything on Java as well as Selenium. So let me tell you what we are going to cover in this training program, and how this training program will go forward, and what level of inputs are required to basically to start this program. So let me start what we require to basically take this program. And so for my understanding, because let me show you the course content first so that you get some understanding. Okay. So basically this training program contains the core Java. First we start with core Java. And core Java more limited to the stuff which is required for Selenium, and then we move to Selenium, and then we basically try to cover some parts of the plugins or the tools which are required for Selenium to design the framework, like Eclipse and JUnit, TrustNG. Some part of continuous integration also I'm going to show you, going to train you on this particular training program. So as you see, the training course content covers the core Java, so you may have an idea, because I am not from the, I'm not from the coding background, or I'm not from the development background, so how this training program suits to me. As you see, the curriculum says I'm going to train you core Java, so I don't expect anybody should have any coding background or some kind of experience in coding, or some experience in Java, because anyway we are going to cover this. Only thing what you are expecting from this training program is your logical thinking. Just if any problematic thing will be given to you, and if you're able to basically think, and if you can present that, so this is how the way you can fix this problem, that is fair enough to basically start this training program. And I see that basically already you have some IT background, but may not be having a Java background. But as she is an Informatica, so maybe he has used ETL and extraction, transformation, and loading, where the transformation needs some logical thinking. And Shailaja also has some IT background, so definitely she has some role where she was doing some logical thinking on the coding part. So I see this program definitely suits to you, and I'm for the core Java part, I'm going to cover more in detail, and because my time, almost 50 to 60% of the time I'm going to spend on core Java, because I just want to create a strong base for you guys, so that not only if you go into a company, if you have a strong core Java skills, even though you joined as a Selenium automation expert, you will get exposed to many things like performance testing, REST API testing, or web services testing. These are all also includes Java, and people who are good in Selenium automation, the current IT industry basically take them for those kind of requirement. So that in that sense, this training program definitely will add you an advantage, and your career in the right path. Okay. So what so for whom this training program I have mentioned, I see three actors for this training program. One actor is like already in manual testing, and the current industry demands something to move of manual testing, and the company is demanding you to move to automation. So for them, this training program will be a perfect program to take it up. The second thing is the developers, especially the developers for a long time they are in development, and now they want to move to some kind of automation, just to come out of the the pressure what they have for long-lasting years, but still they want to be in connect with the coding part, as well as they want to change their career to automation. Third actor will be like they're just coming out of the college, or they have a different writing experience, and they want to pursue their career in automation, which is most happening nowadays, especially the Selenium. So for them, this training program will suit. So why Selenium? Because the most important question everybody will have is why Selenium? So before I go to why Selenium, I just want to know why automation. Everybody will have a very basic question called why automation, and why automation is picking up very fast in the current industry, and why current industry is demanding automation in the current industry. So what I'm going to cover for first half an hour is a general discussion, because I just want to make sure that what perception you have on automation, what perception you have on Selenium, I want to clarify, then I move on to some technical stuff here. Okay. So why automation? As you see, there are many products. Some products they may start now. Some products are in middle of their phase. Some products are in some of the releases already happened, and some of the projects are in maintenance. So for every product, the testing process should be in cycle. And what happens is, if a product's initiated now, maybe this testing process will be in a better phase where the testing time will in sync with the development team, and you have proper planning on that, and you may get a very good output when you're going to release that product. But there are many scenarios where this product will have a next release, or this product will have a next version. Based on inputs it gets from the customer, they want to enhance the product, or they want to add some new functionality to the product. So what happens when that cycle starts? Imagine that the first cycle I have written some 100 test cases or 1,000 test cases, which around 10 people got involved, and they successfully released the product. So, but now what happens is, in the second version of the product, this 1,000 test cases has to be re-executed. In addition to that, if there is an enhancement or if there is a new functionality added to the product, they may have to add some 200 test cases addition to the particular current bucket. Now what happens is, executing this 1,000 test cases with 200 test cases, there's a new thing is, either this 200 test case has to be executed with these 10 testers, they have to recruit new people because there is a requirement from the product. But how long this will continue? Because the company cannot afford just because you have some test cases added, or because the product is enhancing. So this strategy, what company will think will that the older release bucket should be automated, so that whatever the current functionality comes to the product, that has to be executed manually. So what we'll get out of this? First thing is, the resource which is in manual can be cut off. Means economically, or in a business strategy, company will have an added advantage where if this 1,000 people are automated, 1,000 test cases are automated, they might not need that much of resource to maintain that particular project. The second thing is that, being we are humans, and we have different issues in our mind, you may not get the accuracy of testing, right? So you may think that now you have 1,000 test cases, and you imagine that you have executed 1,000 test cases, but in real time what happens is, you only basically try to test the product around 80% because you're doing it manually, and definitely you get some bugs from the customer saying that this functionality is not working properly, that functionality is not working properly, and when you do a reverse engineering, you find that this particular block of functionality was not properly tested because it got missed out. Now, how to resolve this issue? Because this kind of issues may be in a very critical stage where customer will say, I don't want this product because this is what actual functionality I was expecting from this product, and this is not working properly. Now what happens is, the company will define, okay, let's not do this, let's do a different strategy, let's plan some automation where the critical function of the product can be automated, or whatever the thing which we can automate fastly, let's automate that, and then whatever the remaining stuff we'll try to execute manually. So what happens is, the burden on the tester will reduce, but the bucket, what you see automated, will give a speed, efficiency, quality, and decrease of the cost, right? So you have some 600 test case automated, so you're independent. That 600 test case works independently There's no when manual intervention is required, automatically it executes whenever an idly build or new builder comes to you on your table, and automatically those 6 test cases get executed. So things which cannot automated, those can be executed manually. So there are many companies. I see there are many companies, not it may be 90% of the companies, they are moving to automation, because there are a bunch of test cases left, and people will be go on executing for years, and still they find some issues, or maybe they want to reduce the resources from the company. So there are many things you see when it comes to automation. So the most important aspect of automation is that the current industry is moving forward in such a way that they don't want any manual testers. They want something who can automate, who can understand some Java language, who can understand the Selenium or some other automation tool where they can start automated those test cases and so on. So that is why we need automation. And okay, so that basically defines why automation. But why Selenium? So that's a very important question. And why Selenium takes its advantage over other tools, and how this is going to be a greater technology, a greater tool, a greater specification to make your career in a faster way. So there are two things, right? Whenever a person want to go for a particular training, there are two things you get into your mind: what technical advantage I have and what career advantage I will have. So there are two things people normally think. So let me define what technical advantage I'll have, and then I'll move on to what career advantage I'll have by say taking Selenium. Okay. So what happens is there are many tools in this industry which do automation. I think you heard about QTP, you heard about Silk, you heard about Windrunner, you heard about RFT, and there are so many like there are other open source tools which do automation. But the most important aspect why current industry is moving out of other tools thing is the cost, the price, the license, where they have to pay yearly to maintain that particular tools. Let me give my experience because I have gone through all these kind of problems or issues where so initially for the current project, I can explain you. For the current project, we got a project, we actuated the company, and then we inherited the automation bucket in the form of Silk. Okay, we have around 900 test cases bunch where that were not stabilized, and we compelled to take that because it's an acquired company. It's very difficult to automate that. Can you please go on mute? Somebody's on.
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Yeah. So thing was like those 900 test cases are not in shape to execute as it is. And second thing is the Silk. So Silk, when we went because we got year end and we have to. Can you please go on mute? I see still a lot of noise coming as a background. Yeah, thank you. So when we went and asked the Silk guys, they said we try to sell a single user license or multi-user license, and then being with the first year, we have to take it up because we don't have any other option, because because for designing automation framework, considering a tool for automation, and then doing automation and training the people on that particular tool, there are a lot of things were involved to basically enable a new automation tool. So somehow we have to take that Silk. But when we went for the license for the first year, they asked somewhere around 20 lakhs rupees to just for a single user license, which I can install a single system. So that's a big problem for a company where it acquired a new company, and then still it has to add some new expenses for just doing an automation, and that won't stop because that will continue because it's an yearly license. So then somehow we have managed first year license, but second year the company started thinking why I have to consider Silk, why I don't have any other tools where I don't want to pay this much of money, and but still it should be efficient tool, robust, dynamic, independent. So these all terms comes when it comes to design. So then, I have experience in my previous company. So I just went and presented a presentation saying that, okay, this is what I see advantage from Selenium, and this is what the problems you see from other tools. So somehow, the management was very much convinced with the tool, with the presentation, the comparison with other tools, and somehow we got an approval for Selenium. And the companies like IBM getting an open source, it's very difficult, but somehow the presentation was really the way I made it was very good, and somehow they got convinced. But what was the presentation? I'm going to explain you, because what was included in the presentation and how you can also convince Selenium. If you think that you are in a company where you're already using some tool and you want to convince them, I want to go for Selenium, what are the advantages I get of Selenium? As I've explained you, the first advantage is it's a free open source tool. No need to pay a single pi to use Selenium, and that is one of the biggest advantages you see compared to other tools. So it's a free tool. There is no cost involved to use this tool. The second thing is it's an open source, so there are a lot of vast communities there, and wherever you stuck, there's a plenty of support you get from different communities, and you don't need to worry about you have to go to support and get the solution for the problem, because that is also one of the biggest problem you see in the industry. Like, even though you have opted some tool for automation for any usage, but after that, if there is any problem, still you have to pay for the support. But coming to Selenium, what is happening? It's been for last around 10 years in the industry. There's a lot of communities, there are a lot of people have did research in Selenium, and there are a lot of open source community support is there, and a lot of code went inside the Selenium because of the open source community. So wherever you're stuck in Selenium and whatever the problem you see Selenium, you have to just Google, just put something on whatever the problem you're seeing, just put into Google. Immediately you get a solution within a microsecond. So that is the second advantage you see from Selenium. So no need to depend any support or any other third party who can support for this particular problem. The third advantage is it's a platform independent. So when I use a platform independent, it's not compulsory that you have to put this in Windows. There's a perception in many times what happens is I have to install this tool in Windows and then I have to use it. So that is not the case with Selenium, because in many product-based companies, there's a lot of workflow involved where we have to support, addition to Windows, we have to support Solaris, Linux, maybe Mac, and also now it's mobiles, like we have to support Android as well as OS X, right? So iOS also. So when I say platform independent, Selenium can go and sit in all these platforms, what I'm actually mentioning. Selenium can go and sit on Android, Selenium can go and sit on iOS, Selenium can go and sit on Solaris, Linux, whatever the operating system, whatever the things which will come to your mind, they will go and sit. Because how it can go and sit there? Because it's not a tool or it's not a software to install. It's a very simple a package of some Java classes. That's it. It's like a package, basically a folder which is having some basic Java classes which you use in your code to basically serve your required logic. That's it. And the fourth important point is browser support. What happens is when a company designs a product, a web-based product, you may not expect that how end user is going to use it. When I say end user, a person who is basically using your application, right? So what happens is you imagine that my customer is going to use a Chrome browser, but you cannot define it, because some person like Opera, some person like Firefox, some person like Safari, and some person likes Internet Explorer. And also you cannot define a version as well, right? Because maybe now you have not updated your Chrome, you are at 30 version, now the Chrome is at 43 version. So So there are plenty of support we require to basically, to make your application success on the web. Because I've seen many times where the particular page loads properly on Firefox, but that page doesn't load in Chrome. And there are a lot of security issues we see in IE. IE won't allow you to put third-party JavaScript plugin. There are a lot of issues you will encounter when you basically going to test your application, and these are all the prerequisite when you design your application testing methodology. So when it comes to automation, that all those things has to be considered, and you have to certify your web application or web product which you're going to define, saying that okay, my product supports on IE, my product supports on Firefox, my product supports on Chrome, and so on. So in that sense, Selenium will take a complete lead, because Selenium works very neatly with these browsers, and it basically sees the best option to get inside the browser and try to basically start executing a particular script on a particular browser. I'll go just, you don't take this my term because this is more technical I'm using, but what I'm going to say is, whatever the end user is doing, normally you basically have a Gmail, you open a Gmail and then log into a Gmail, and then you click an inbox and blah blah. There's some kind of workflow you do every day for checking your mails. But if something this has to be automated, you have to automate that workflow, and you have to have something to basically pop up the browser automatically, putting username, password, automatically it has to click the inbox, and then it has to log out. So this is where the Selenium is doing in terms of functionality of the Selenium. So this functionality you want to do in different browsers, and Selenium works properly, and it supports different browsers which are available in the current industry. And this works very natively with the browser. It doesn't require any third-party tool to basically connect to the browser. It goes and sits directly into the browser. So that is one of the advantages what you see in the Selenium. Performance, the most important aspect of the current industry is the performance, right? So leave the industry requirement, but from coming to the job requirement also, there's a plenty of opening for performance. And so what happens is, if you look from the functional perspective, if I want to execute 10,000 test cases manually, I have 3 resources, and just imagine that a resource can execute 10 test cases per day. So 30 test cases per day, and I need 30 days with 3 resources to basically execute that particular bucket. Okay, so you see a 30 days time is involved to basically test those 1,000 test cases manually. If I'm coming to the automation, here also there is a problem to see. If you see some other tools like RFT, Silk or QTP, first you need to install the software on a Windows operating system, and then you need to configure that particular software, and then you have to start using that software. Okay, when I'm talking about a software, it by itself it requires some RAM, some kind of system performance, and then it can, and whatever the left thing which is used will be to execute your basically automation suite. But what is happening is, if you're going to support a different combination, as I mentioned, different browsers, different platforms, I need to have a test machines where I can have multiple installations of this software like Silk or QTP, and a lot of memories involved, a lot of hard disk is involved, a lot of performance is involved to basically drive this functionality. And you end up seeing that you may get an advantage of having an automation suite, and you may have executed this automation of 1,000 test cases in different platforms and different browsers. Maybe it took some 2 days of time to execute, 2 days of time to execute these 1,000 test cases. Still you have an advantage 8 days, but still the current industry is not ready to spend 2 days on that, because it needs something to be done maybe in 2 hours of span time or 3 hours of span time or maximum folders of time to time. So the problem is that these tools are not, I cannot capable, but the current industry is not capable to support that kind of hardware to this particular software to make sure that the complete suite is executed in 4 hours. So, but when it comes to Selenium, because Selenium doesn't require any installation, Selenium doesn't require any kind of software dependency, it's a simple Java classes. So you can just put the put that particular plugin anywhere in your system folder, and then you drive your suite using this particular Java classes. And you know, to my experience, I have around 3,000 test cases of bucket, and Selenium executes in a time span of 6 hours. And you know, the current industry, the current project implementation don't have a patience nowadays. They don't have any patience that they can wait for 1 day, 2 days to see this, because they want the results every day. They want to see what is the issue, where the product is failing, how they can give a very fast fix. Because when it goes to the most important point of any IT party is the customer. It's like a god, so they cannot disappoint the god here. So what happens is they don't want to release any product without, you know, with issue. So they want some product without any issue and with a very, very stable product they want to release to the customer. So to do that, they need everyday testing cycle execution, everyday fixing cycle execution. So these are all things which are the current industry is actually moving forward. So in that sense, the Selenium properly fits to the requirement, and this will rock in those many places where, with my experience, I'm telling you, Selenium basically gives a lot of advantage in terms of performance. Now, the fifth point is, you have a system, and every system can have a multiple browser installation, right? You cannot define, okay, you cannot say that I cannot install. Once I install Firefox browser, your system won't say that I cannot install Chrome, because OS is there where it can allow multiple browser installation. Now, what advantage Selenium will give is, on the same machine, same test case, you can execute on different processes in parallel. So that is the most advantage you see from Selenium, because on a workflow, if you can certify something saying that, okay, I have executed my 1,000 test cases on all my supported process in a particular span of time. You see how the quality comes out of the product when you release to the customers. So that is one of the advantage you get, and also it applicable for the platform also. You can execute in any platform. You can execute your suite on Linux platform, you can execute suite on Windows platform. So platform independence, yeah, as I mentioned, Selenium will have an added advantage there. Now let me go. Okay, I think core reusability I'll try to cover once I come to Java, because something is a technical stuff. I don't want to bring that. I don't want to confuse you on this particular part. So as I say, other than Windows also we can test this. Now, continuous integration with Jenkins. I don't get into much. I'm not going to go into much technical stuff of this, because I'm going to cover this, an introduction to this, but still I'll give some basic understanding of what is the continuous integration in the current industry. The most important factor what the current industry is looking for is Agile and DevOps. Okay, so I think you heard about Agile, or you heard of DevOps. I don't want to go. I don't want to cover these definitions here. I'll just give you an overall idea of what are these things. So, what is DevOps here? So, it's development operations or whatever maybe you can say. But what is in real time? What is DevOps is doing is, once suppose that you're going to develop a product, or you're going to enhance your product, or you're going to try to fix something on a product which is coming as a customer escalation or customer issue. Now, what happens is, as once this particular things comes as a requirement, immediately the DevOps strategy says that the QA and the developers should work in sync, and they should be like brothers and sisters, where you know the phase where the developers are doing, in the same phase the testing has to be done. But in real time, how this is going to be achieved? Because first developers has to develop some product, and once they have developed something, that has to be given to the testers, and testers has to test that particular product. That is how the conventional methodology we see in the current industry. That we say maybe waterfall model or V model, whatever the model we have. But that's what I said to you in the beginning. Industry doesn't have a time to see some conventional methodology to certify your product. So what happens is, as soon as you get a design or functional spec, a design to the developer and functional spec to the tester, immediately the developers start developing some block of code, and the testers started designing some test plan and test case related to that. Means it cannot be a proper test case, but it can be a complete at 100 feet level use case where how I'm going to test this particular product. So once the development and the planning is done, there was follow some iterations. So every iteration, maybe it is a 3 weeks iteration, 3 weeks period of time where developer will define some modules I have to develop, and tester will define these are the things which I have to define, like test plan, test cases, and the testing, and as well as automation. So in 3 weeks of time, what happens? The developer will develop the modules, and the tester will do all test plan, test strategy, test cases, test execution, and then automation. But in 3 weeks of time, a tester has to do this. So to basically cut off, save the time and the manual thing, what tester will think is, let's automate this, so that when you go for the next iteration, next 3-week cycle, the development code, what the modules was defined by the developer for the first iteration of 3 weeks, that will be automatically executed without any human intervention, and only the tester has to concentrate on the next iteration. So, but overall, if you see this picture, this somewhere it has to be automated. The whole process which we see, technical aspect of this process, where executing these, automating, after once this automation of test case is done, without when I'm using without human intervention, means though somebody has to pick up those test cases which are automated in the first iteration, and automatically it should execute without having any manual intervention or human intervention in the process. How we do that? How it can be achieved? So there's a content integration methodology. It's been in the industry for some time, but now it is picking up because, as I said, current industry, current project implementation don't have any time for any manual intervention here. So how the content integration works is like, whenever a developer checking the code, a single line of code check into the code, automatically the system which is actually running as a build process, or maybe there's a build process system where whenever a new check-in or a new code added to the product, automatically it will generate a compiled build. When I say compiled, with that code will go to the build process machine, and then basically it compiles. Compile is nothing but it's like you write some code and it has to be compiled, right? So that's what I'm talking about, compilation. So that code will go to the build machine, and that will be compiled, and then it will generate a complete formatted product for you, and that product will be picked by some process where it will try to deploy it, or it will try to install the product, and automatically the next step will be it will try to basically execute those test cases which you automated in the previous iteration, or whatever the current iteration as well. So this whole process is automated, and also once that executed, a report is generated, and after that an email sent to the management saying that, okay, this many test case got executed, and this many test case got passed, this many test case got failed, and also it automatically integrates with some quality management tool where it opens some if it finds some artificial intelligence which is already integrated, it automatically finds the product issue or it's a code issue, and it opens some task and defines directly send to the person who has actually automated that test case, and also the module where it is failing, that module one also will get an email saying that okay, this part of the area is failing. So this whole process is automated now, and how that is achieved is using continuous integration. So, and that continuous integration we defined as Jenkins. Before we used to call that as Hudson. Now it is called as Jenkins. So in this process, a lot of technologies are involved, like AND, MAV, and stuff. So but why am I actually defining all these things? Why I'm actually covering this is a question you get, because because in this workflow process, Selenium goes and sits very easily, and the bucket what you automated using Selenium easily can be integrated in this workflow, so that any company you want to build this workflow, endpoint will be you have to test the product and generate a report, and the testing the product the Selenium will do in that particular process workflow. So that's the reason Selenium also is very good in injecting into DevOps strategy as well as a continuous integration. Okay, so this is what about advantage of Selenium compared to other tools, and but what is the real picture of Selenium? What is the real requirement we have on Selenium? As you see, whatever things I have explained, why Selenium, I think you got some understanding, basic understanding why we have to go for Selenium and what are the added advantages you get from Selenium. But still, I want to define something. With my experience in my old companies or my current company, I have seen out of 80% of the teams which were there in different tools, they already moved to Selenium, and there's many teams which are moving to Selenium because being some teams already moved to Selenium, so they feel like okay, now we can move confidently because we get a very good support. The other teams are planning to move because they are seeing some advantages on the testing process, they are seeing advantages on the cost perspective. So what I'm saying is 80%, and I say 80% is a big number, and you can basically search the job criteria also. Most of the companies in the IT industry which are developing web applications, they need Selenium. Not only that, the most important aspect of the current industry is mobile now. Wherever you go, the end user will be mobile, and I see that every person will have one or two mobiles in their hand, and the problem is that now people stop using a laptop for the basic purpose. For just take an example, you want to check your mails, you just use your mobile. You want to basically book a ticket, you use a mobile. So now the front interface now slightly shifting from a laptop or a tablet to a mobile. So the thing is that the Selenium will go and sit properly, as I told you, Selenium will go and sit properly onto Android and iOS. So if a company demands saying that, okay, I want to test my application on my Android, I want to test my application on iOS, Selenium is only the tool in the industry which actually do that. So just imagine that if you know Selenium, and if you are doing good in Selenium, definitely your career, because the next 20 years the generation will be on mobiles. You may see different mobiles, different applications coming up, and definitely next 20 years, if you just fix into Selenium as a career, you can stabilize your career in Selenium, and without any kind of thing is that Selenium will fetch you a very good career for you in that particular perspective. Okay, so any questions, any concerns to ask, you can just chat. You can just type on your chat, my chat here. Anybody can ping me, or if you want to talk also, you can talk. That's not a problem. Are you clear on why we need Selenium, or you have any questions? Or you have any questions saying that is I'm eligible for this training program, or how I'm going to, like, if you have this kind of question you have in your mind, you can just put on chat, or you can unmute. No? There are no questions from anybody?
For me, Arvind,
Yeah.
actually, for Selenium, do I need to know about the manual QA also?
Not required. Not required, because I'm going to cover some part of manual also with respect to Selenium. I don't think you really required some manual stuff, because you are going as a Java developer. Got it. So you will be more on technical aspect, but still it's a good question. I'm going to cover a couple of classes on manual testing, how manual testing, how we do manual testing, and what is the strategy we follow manual testing, and what is the I'm going to define that workflow. Don't need to worry, because I know that is the point where you will ask. But still, you will be a Java developer, or maybe what I can say is engineering testing. Your role will be called as engineering in testing. Okay, because you raised your point, I want to define something here. There's no QA in next generation. It's a QA only. Industry is looking for quality engineering, not a quality assurance here. So the point is that you may land up after a couple of years, you may say there was a QA. That is what the industry is actually moving on. So don't need to worry about manual testing, and I'm going to cover a couple of classes on that. Is that fine?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So without one more question, Arvind.
Yeah.
I don't have any Java knowledge. So
Okay.
still I can manage Selenium?
I think maybe you have missed that screen. As I said, I'm also going to train you Java.
Okay.
So that is a curriculum what we have, because I know, because the thing is that I have many other training institutes, maybe they start directly to Selenium, and the prerequisite will be Java, and we cannot take any guarantee that whatever the Java expertise they have, that expertise is eligible for this Selenium program. So as I have a lot of experience in that industry, I cannot take any risk in skipping the Java training. So that's where I have created a curriculum where I'm going to train you on core Java more in detail. That's what I said. 50% of my training program will be in core Java, so that by the end of this program, you first become expert in Java. Okay. Yeah, but no need to worry. It's a very easy language, and the way I'm going to drive this training program in a very, very easy way. So no need to worry that I don't have any coding experience, I don't have any language writing experience. Don't need to worry, because I don't think anybody will born with some coding skills. Right? Somewhere in your process, in your life cycle, you have to learn something new. So to pursue your career or to make your career. So definitely Java is one of the best language you can take it, because as I told you, addition to Selenium, if you become expert in Java, you can move your career to performance testing, REST API testing, and as well as web service testing, which is the most happening in current industry, and they pay you like hours on hours basis only. There is no something like something a day. They'll pay you in hours if you really become expert in that. Because once you get into the industry, suppose like you got into a company with a Selenium profile. After going there, 100% I can assure that if a company is taking a person on Selenium, definitely they're expecting them to put on some other aspects of testing like performance, REST API, and web services, and they'll be giving a proper training inside the company, and definitely that will feature a very good career. Is that clear?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions before I move on? Okay, I see Shailaja, Vivek. Okay, Shailaja, you have any questions?
Can you show me a little bit how Java is
covered most of the stuff here. Okay. What is Selenium? Let me define what is Selenium, and then what are the components in Selenium, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of Selenium, and what kind of what is the technical aspect of Selenium. Okay, so first thing is Selenium is a web-based automation tool. When I say web-based automation tool, what is web-based automation tool? Let me give very simple workflow. Very simple workflow. You have a web page. You put some URL there, and one application opens. You can take a Facebook as an example here. You put www.facebook.com and then put enter, and then Facebook opens for you. And then first initial entry criteria will be you have to log into Facebook. You enter username, password, and based on your requirement, based on your usability, you basically do something on that particular page, and at the end of the day you log out and just shut down your system. Okay, so imagine that I'm going to start a company. I'm going to basically develop a web application which does this purpose. So what happens is, customer comes to you and says that, okay, you have to develop a web application which is similar like Facebook. Okay, and I have 3 months of time, and these are all my requirements. Okay, now thing is that, first the engineering team or the development team and the testing team, first thing is they'll analyze what are my competitors in this particular workflow. So they'll see Facebook or Twitter or Orkut. There are many applications which you get in the industry. So first they'll define what are the functionalities they actually giving, and then they'll see that what other things I can add to the function. This is a basic understanding of how the current industry works. Now what happens as the workflow went to such level that now I'm in a testing mode where I have defined some 1,000 test cases based on my web application got developed. Now, as I told initially, one of my test cases will be what I explained. I want to put my URL into the browser. I log into that, I do some functionality, and I log out. This is my first test case to test for a tester. But the thing is that this is the basic workflow, and once you do manual testing, but after that you want to automate this, right? So what happens is you basically write some script or some code where the first step will be the code should basically launch the browser. So first say, okay, launch Firefox. Now the code will launch the Firefox. The next step will be put some URL. So put URL. There is one, you can see some call, say put, and that URL will put into your address bar. And then once you wait for some time, you will say, okay, wait. You will try to wait for some time. So you say, the code will say, okay, you try to wait for 30 seconds until the page loads. This is one of my instruction I will give as the third step. The fourth step will be like, once the page opens, okay, insert a username into this text box, insert your password into this text box. This is my 5th and 6th instruction for my script, and my 7th instruction will be click this particular button. So click button, okay, and then once I click, I go to the page, and based on use case, maybe you trying to basically chat. Okay, what do you do? Click chat. So you go and say click chat. So once the instruction goes and clicks, the chat window opens, and you do some kind of chat there, and then after some time you say that click logout. So you see, without having any human intervention, my script is generating an instruction where a person who is doing manually, it's been done using a script. Okay, so that script is nothing but Selenium here. So Selenium will give all kind of instructions to perform some action on your page to basically fulfill your test case requirement. So when I say script can be Java, okay, script can be Python, script can be Ruby, script can be Perl, or script can be C#. So what outcome you're getting here is Selenium supports multiple language to write the scripting here. So it's not compulsory that you have to pick some language to write in Selenium, because the Selenium inbuilt supports different languages to write. So, but as we see, the Java is a primary language which most of the industry uses for their web application development. So that's the reason 80 to 90% of the implementation is done using a Java code. So Java code, when I say Java code, a Java is composed of two things. One is the script, and one is the, so okay, let's not go much into detail Java. So what is my point is, you basically use a Java code as a scripting to drive your workflow which are defined in your test case. Okay, so what Selenium is going to do is, Selenium is going to basically simulate an end user action and basically perform a workflow which is defined in the test case. So this is how you can define Selenium. And what are the components we see in Selenium? What are the components we see in Selenium? The first component is the Selenium IDE, the second component Selenium core, the third is Selenium grid, and fourth is the web driver. So there are 4 components. This is a very important interview question people will ask in the interview, and it is a very basic question. This is a basic knowledge we should have when you are going for Selenium interview. Now, what is Selenium IDE? I think you may have seen many tools which do a record playback. What is a record playback actually? What is a record playback mechanism? Think that you are not interested to write any scripting. You are not interested. You just want to launch a browser. You click some record button and put some URL into the browser and do all required action. Once you complete your workflow, and then you stop the recording, and that tool the tool or some plugin which basically generates some code for you, and use that code to basically play the same workflow. You see how it is, like just you basically record. Once you launch the browser, you put a record button and put a URL, and you do whatever you require for the test case. So you have completed your workflow, and then now you stop the recording button. Automatically the tool will generate some code based on the action you have done on the page, and then you use the same script to basically play the thing. So that is called a record and playback mechanism. Okay, now, but what is the advantage you get with the record and playback? I'll tell you here. Selenium IDE is something like a plugin or a tool which sits on the Firefox browser, only on the Firefox browser. So if you have a Firefox browser, you can just go and install the Selenium IDE on the Firefox browser. And once you install the Firefox browser, you can open this plugin and then put a URL, put some application into URL, and then you can record and then you can play back. But what is other advantage which Selenium IDE gives is, as I told you, you are not interested to write any Java code, you are not interested to write any scripting. IDE has an functionality where once you record it, you can export that whole workflow into particular language. So you can say /export, and then you can actually see some languages listed there, and you can select that language, and then you can export that scripting, and then you can use that scripting to basically perform a playback. Okay, so that advantage IDE will give you from the Selenium perspective. Okay, so Selenium IDE works in 2 ways. One, you can record and playback from the plugin, and the other advantage is you can export whatever the functionality you have performed on the project can be exported to particular script which your product is demanding. Okay, that is how the Selenium IDE. So I'm going to show you how the Selenium IDE looks like. So this is a tool, how it looks like. Okay, and this, you see there's a small red button which will do a record for you, and there's some play button. If you see the arrow button where once you record, you see how the code is generated in this window, and it automatically generates based on the action you do on the browser. So you no need to worry about how it is generating. You only need to worry about how you are going to play it back. That's it. Okay, but I'll come more in detail once I'm going to cover Selenium ID, especially in the training curriculum. But this is how the Selenium looks like, and these are the window you see from the Selenium ID perspective. But what is the disadvantage using Selenium ID? What is it? Because as I said, if you want to use a record playback from the tool, as I said, it only sits on Firefox. But if the product is expecting you to test your application on different browsers, then you cannot do using Selenium ID because it only supports Firefox browser. This is very important interview question they may ask you. Why you cannot consider Selenium ID for automation? The very simple answer is Selenium ID won't support other browsers. Selenium ID only supports Firefox. Okay. Second is the Selenium core. So what is Selenium core here? Actually, technically, if you talk more in technical way, Selenium core is an outdated technology. It's more of outdated technology, but some part of it's still being used in the current implementation. But why I'm using outdated technology is because this is a Selenium 1 specification and people have stopped using it. Now we are in Selenium 2, but still this has to be known because when I'm saying Selenium 2, we should want to know why Selenium 1 moved to Selenium 2 and what advantage I got out of Selenium 1 to Selenium 2. Okay, so Selenium 1. What happens is when you write your Java code as a script, okay, that script has to communicate to the browser, right? Because then if the script is not communicating to the browser, it won't perform the required action which you have defined as steps in your script, right? So the main important aspect of Selenium to run their scripts on a browser, it has to communicate to the browser. So to communicate to the browser, either it has to go and sit in the browser, either it has to inject something to the browser so that it can drive its scripts on the browser. I use two different terms. Either it has to sit, the script itself has to go and sit on the browser. Either it has to communicate to a person where it can send this script and the person drives that script onto the browser. Okay. So when I say a person who sits on the browser and takes my scripts as an input and drives some action on the browser, then that is nothing but a reference to a Selenium specification. So I'm going much detail now. So what happens is when you have a script written for a particular test case, you try to execute it. Okay. So when you execute it, it has to send this instigation. It has to send these instructions to a particular engine or a server or a mediator. We can define any term here, where it can understand these instructions, and that guy will translate to a browser understandable stuff. When I say browser understandable stuff, it can be JavaScript. Okay, so the instructions will send to the Selenium mediator, and the mediator will convert that to a kind of Java instruction, the JavaScript instructions, and the JavaScript instructions will basically try to execute those actions on the browser. So you see a lot of dependency, a lot of layers are involved in Selenium 1 specification, and as I told you in the beginning of the class, JavaScript is not a technology is a technology which is accepted by many browsers, because if you're specifically looking some more security related browsers like IE, it won't allow you to inject a third-party JavaScript automatically. There's a lot of workaround you have to make sure, and then you can execute that script in a particular IE. So these are the problems Selenium encountered in the Selenium 1 version, but it's not like it failed in Selenium 1. Still, there are some workarounds the community has found out, and still they were able to use Selenium 1 to drive their test scripts on the browser. So then the Selenium 2 came, and Selenium got vanished from the market, and then we started talking about WebDriver. Okay, WebDriver is something like, it is also a script only, a JavaScript script, but what it does is it communicates with the native part of the browser. When I say native part of the browsers, every browser has a nativity, right? Every browser has a nativity. When I say Internet Explorer is more aligned with its operating system, Windows operating systems. When I say Windows operating system, Windows operation depends on DLLs. Okay, so WebDriver will basically talk to the DLLs. So it doesn't require any mediator or any server to enable, and then that communicate to the browser. So what happens is when you start executing the scripts will directly communicate to the native part of the browser called DLLs, and directly start driving the instructions executing on a browser. That is more of IE. But what about Chrome? What about Firefox? You may have a question, because so what happens is, what is the native part of Firefox is your add-ons, your plugins. So it will try to the Firefox will come with some plugin where by default the latest version of Firefox comes with the WebDriver plugin. So what happens is WebDriver will go to talk to the plugin, inbuilt plugin on the Firefox, and start executing the script. In the same way, Chrome also the Chrome will have some an exe file which you have to start, and that exe file will try to take the input from the WebDriver. So there are many ways. For every browser we have a different strategy handling natively, and we don't have any dependency to start something on the test machine or to enable something before you start executing your script. So these are some of the technical differentiations you see between a Selenium 1 and Selenium 2. And we have some advantages of Selenium 1 over Selenium 2, but I don't want to talk now, because once I go technically of Selenium code and WebDriver, I'm going to explain that. Now, what is a Selenium grid? Selenium grid is something like, and kind of a master and slave relation, where you want, as I told you in the beginning, you want to execute a script on different browsers in parallel, or you want to execute a script in different browsers and different platforms in parallel. Let's think that you have a test machine A, where you have your development, your development environment, where you have somehow 100 test cases got developed and the scripts are ready. Now think that you have some testing machines, like you have a testing machine called Linux, you have a testing machine called Windows 2K, you have a testing machine on Windows 2K 12, and Linux has a browser called Firefox, Windows 2K a browser called Safari, and Windows 2K 12 called Chrome. Now what happens is, the test machine, the development machine, what you have, will try to, when you start executing the test kit automatically, there is a grid. When I say the management or the grid tool, which sends this test scripts to different platforms at a time in parallel. So the same script will be executed parallelly on Linux on Firefox, Windows on Chrome, and Windows 2K on Chrome, and Windows 2K 12 on Safari. So the grid basically it's a master, or it can be a management tool where it manages the test machines, and you basically inject your script to this particular management tool or the management software, which sends input to different test machines and execute those test scripts in that particular platforms. Okay, so that is what the Selenium grid. So Selenium grid is nothing but a master where you give a test script to it, and it try to execute on its slaves. So slaves can be different platforms like Linux, Windows, and Solaris, any other operating system with a different browsers. Okay, but Selenium grid also has been outdated. To exact technically to say, it's been outdated because now, as I told you, the continuous integration is in process. So the industry has literally moving out of Selenium grid, but still in the training program, I'm going to cover the Selenium grid as well as Jenkins and continuous integration as well. Okay. Now, to answer Shailaja's question here, what is the relation between a Java and a Selenium? Okay. So Selenium is defined in Java. So when I say Selenium is defined in Java, means whatever the actions I'm talking about, click, type, launch browser, click something, select something, all these are a kind of functions which are defined in JavaScript. Okay, so when you talk about Selenium, as I told you, you get a small plugin the plugin is nothing but it's a composition of Java classes. It's nothing but only Java class. So when you basically write a Java code, you basically call those Java related functions to basically serve your required scripting. Okay, so is that answer your question, Shailaja?
Yes, I got it.
Okay, okay. So I think maybe, so I'll just show you the architectures of this. Now this is the Selenium core architecture. If you see, as I told you, it will have a Selenium RC server, and then it injects the JavaScript onto the browser, and you see the Selenium core injecting, and then it basically performs something on the browser. And this is how the web driver, as I told you, it communicates with the native part of the browser, so you don't need any server or some mediator to basically run your script on the browser. Okay, and this is a Selenium grid. The architecture, as I told you, it's a hub, or it's a management, or it's a some kind of management server where you have a Java test here, and there's a Selenium grid here. Selenium hub is nothing but Selenium grid, and then it try to execute on different nodes. Okay. Okay. So addition. Okay, so if this is how the contents what I'm going to cover in Selenium, and what other contents I'm going to cover. So in the code, I'm going to cover core Java, where I'm going to cover object-oriented programming concept, collections, IO operations, reflection, loops, conditions, some kind of design patterns, and exceptions. So as I am telling you, I'm trying to cover most of the core Java concepts here, but more of automation perspective and more of real-time perspective. I'm not going to teach you something like ABCD. I'm going to teach ABCD, but more of real-time. How this code works in different, how if I'm having this code, how in real-time this code can be used. So I'm going to cover a lot of real-time applications or real-time use cases in every concept, so that if you're going for an interview, the most important the concept, so you will be easily clearing those interview questions which are coming from core Java. And coming here, core Java for Eclipse. Scripting and compile, execute. Okay, so that is how the Eclipse is about, and we don't need any proficiency to use Eclipse, because I'm going to conduct a couple of sessions on Eclipse, how you configure Eclipse, how you're going to use Eclipse, and also if somebody sees Eclipse in your profile, then they'll definitely get into the imagination that okay, this guy has a very good development knowledge, or this guy has some understanding on development. That is how the impression you get if you see all these tools. If you need this, and is something like a build process tool, where, as I told you, in the continuous integration, you basically use Ant to build something like a download build, unzip build, deploy build, trigger your automation. So all these steps are performed by Ant. I'm going to cover this technically in coming sessions, but JUnit, TestNG. So basically, it's like you're trying to asset, right? Suppose like, okay, why I use JUnit TestNG? Let me give some basic understanding. So I'll take a very basic workflow here. As I told you, Facebook only. You give username, password, and submit. What is your expectation? First expectation is, even though you're performing that action for 100th time, still you have some doubt that is my username, password is correct what I entered. There are many times I will have that perception of even though you enter. So how you test that? So what happens is you enter username, password, then your expected will be like your name should come on the top. So welcome to blah blah. So this is my expectation. So what happens is you write a script to do all that action, but at the end of the day you want to do a verification saying that is that particular script is giving a right output or not. So what is my right output here is I want to see some text information on the top of my right side. Welcome to your username. So that verification or the assertion or the comparison, we use JUnit here. JUnit also pure Java specification. JUnit also comes in a lot of Java code. So you basically call some function where you basically try to compare the expected and actual. If the expected actual is the same, it will pass. If the expected actual is not same, it will fail. Okay, that's how the JUnit works. So as I told you, if the username logins, you get some text. So you send actual will be coming from the script, but expected you basically send as an input. That is nothing but the text information you see on the top of your right side. Okay, so that way that JUnit and TestNG works. Both will do the same thing, but there are some advantages of both the tools. I'm going to cover both in our training program, because the current industry, we don't know. The current industry is either using JUnit or it is using TestNG. So I don't want to take any of this, because if you're going for an interview, if suppose I'm going to cover JUnit and they're expecting an expertise in TestNG, you should be confident of I also know TestNG, because I've seen many project implementations there they actually shuffle between JUnit and TestNG, and there's some added advantage of TestNG or JUnit. And optimized mechanism to identify the GUI. So this is something where my expertise will come, because this is where my whole research went. And when I say optimized mechanism to identify the GUI components, when you basically launch a Facebook, what you basically, first impression what you get is, what are the items I see on the browser, right? You see one text box saying username and password with text box, some button, some register link. So all these are kind of components you see on a browser, right? So every component will have some property. So I cannot click on the text box. I want to insert something in the text box. I cannot insert something on a button. I have to click on a button, right? So, but all these actions, how they perform. So first thing is, you need to identify that in my script, because if I want to click something on a particular button, first I need to understand on which button I have to do some action. So to do some action, I need to have a unique identifier to identify that particular component. To identify that particular component, you need an identification mechanism where you identify that component, and then once you get a handle on the component, then you do particular action on that. Okay, I'll show you something for you. What is that I'm referring here? Okay, okay. So if I say email, phone, password, the password and this thing, first thing which you should get into your mind, that this is one component, this is one component, this is one component. If you see, this is one kind of component, you are expecting some action on this. This is one more component, you are expecting some action on this, and this is one more component, you are expecting some action on this, right? But how I'm going to identify this first? Because if I want to inject something from the script perspective, how my script will know this is the component which I have to enter a username, this is the component which I have entered as a password, and this is the component which I have to enter my, this I have to click this. So what happens is, when you right click this, you know, okay, wait a minute, I don't have Chrome, 1 minute. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I'll go here. So I'll cover you in detail in the next step. But thing is that every component will have one identification. So when a developer is going to develop this particular block of page, okay, what he will do is, for this particular component, he will define one ID. Some ID will be defined for this particular component. For the password for this text box, there will be one ID which is defined for this component. For the button, there will be one more ID which is defined for this particular component. So once these IDs are defined from the developer and which are given to you are which are already defined in your source. When I say source here, something crazy browser, this is okay. So when you see the source, all these components will have, let me install and show you because this will confuse you guys, so let me download that first for you. Just give me a minute. So I think okay. I think after this I'm going to end this session because I think I have pretty much covered. So let me show you the identification, how we do identification, and I'm going to end this session. But before that, you have any questions to ask on this training program, and what are the stuff I'm going to cover, or what is the time period I'm going to use, and what's the session duration? Any questions you have?
So basically, in your testing, in your training, what are the applications that you are going to?
Pardon? I didn't get your question.
What kind of testing?
Your voice is breaking, Vivek. I'm not able to hear you. You are asking that what are the applications you are going to test? Right? Okay. See, we don't test any applications here. We will be testing a web. Okay, when you say you are referring a web application here, is that what?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So what we'll do is actually based on my experience and based on my understanding, for every context, like the most important aspect is that how you identify the components and how you basically handle those components in a better way. So when I talk about components, it can be a text box, or a drop down, or a drag and drop, or it can be a native pop-ups. There are a lot of things you basically handle using Selenium. So what we have will be like, there are many web applications where we have seen some difficulties. We are not going to take one application to define whole Selenium because that will not serve your purpose, because it will be very straightforward and you can basically go ahead and you can have a basic application and then you basically take your application and record something, playback something. I'm not going to cover in a very conventional. So what I'm going to take is, there are some URLs I'll be having where we have encountered a lot of difficulties to basically automate those components, and that actually gives a lot of experience to understand and how to use Selenium, and those kind of stuff I have encountered in my internal project as well. So we have different web applications we are going to consider, but that are not developed by us. We'll be taking some real-time applications which are already running on the web. Is it clear? Vivek?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there are like one example like Lufthansa. There is one site called Lufthansa where it has a crazy selection of the country. It means there's a crazy collection where you have to enter from which airport to which airport, and in my previous experience, I have given homework to the students, and 95% students fails to achieve that. So I'll be covering those kind of real-time applications which we see some kind of limitation, and you can basically, with my expertise, you'll be trying to overcome those problems, because that is what you require from this training, not about just to identify one component and driving that. The most important thing is what is the real-time requirement we have for the current industry, and how we are going to solve this. Okay, is it clear?
So this is
it clear? Pardon?
This is completely different than QTP, right?
It's not completely different from QTP, I cannot say, because QTP also do web automation, but it is not flexible. It's not flexible, or kind of a tiny stuff where you can use wherever you want, and it has its own limitation. But QTP also can do web automation, but it has its own cons to compare with Selenium. Yeah. So okay, I'm on the web page now. Just see my. I'm going to end my session after this screen. Okay. A minute. Okay. So if you see this, okay. If you see this page, I'm going to take this 1 minute. So if you see this page, see there are some identifications you have. See, you have some identifications and some names. So every component will have some identifications where you basically identify that particular component. Like if you see the frame, it is able to try to pick the frame. Okay, so this is how you identify the components, and then use these identifications to basically identify that particular component, and then you take and handler on the component and then try to do some action on that. So that is how I'm going to cover in detail once I come to identification mechanism. There are many ways. I'm going to share you with my expertise there, and you can build the best optimized identification mechanism which current industry is actually performing. Okay, so coming back here, so this will be a 30 hours duration course. Okay, and this may extend a couple of hours based on how you take this course and how you basically understand this course, and how what is the advantage you get from TekTaurus education, like because they have a very good instructors around. As you see me, like they basically have all the instructors from a well-reputed companies, and also we cover 3 things here, very important 3 things everybody expects. Okay, first thing is we give 100% placement assistance for you, and second thing is I'll be conducting a lot of mock-up interviews, and I'll be covering a lot of technical questions in my training program. As well as end of the training program, I'm going to document some interview questions which every company will be expecting you to answer. And third thing is I'm going to help you in preparing a resume which looks more of real time, and which really tells that okay, you are really working on Selenium, because industry don't expect person who knows Java. Industry expect a person who are already working in Java. So we have to prepare a resume in such a way that it shows up that already you are in Selenium and you're very good in Selenium. So these are all services we provide from TekTaurus. Okay. So before I end up this session, do you have any questions to ask?
What will be the timings of the course sessions?
You mean to say daily timings?
Yeah, it will be Monday to Friday every day, or only?
Thing is that we are going to cover 10 hours in a week. Okay. And that schedule, I think maybe maybe Madhu or somebody will try to contact you on that part. But the basic thing will be like I'm going to cover 10 hours in a week. So it starts from Monday to Sunday, 10 hours. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions you have?
So Arvind, I specifically wanted to have the new start web performance management. Are you going to cover anything?
No, Vivek, I'm not going to cover that.
Okay, then yeah, you should have told that first, because I told you that I'm just